Also caught up to an icon of the conservative movement in this country. Preston Manning's here at the convention, and he's with Martin Stringer.
Preston Manning, a lot being discussed here in terms of major policy and possible policy changes for this party. Let's start with the big one that everyone's talking about, obviously, and that is whether the party should abandon its traditional stand that marriage is only a union between a man and a woman. There's a resolution there. Given where this party is going or hopes to go, is it inevitable that the party had to abandon that position?
Well, I think members of the party should be free to hold whatever position they want on that. I personally support that definition. I think the better position to which parties are tending is to get the government out of the business entirely of defining what marriage is. Confine the government to simply defining a legal framework for unions of dependency and let marriage be defined by others and by the non-governmental sector. I think these are steps in that direction, and I think that's the right direction to go.
So is it almost a sense, because talking to social conservatives here at the convention, is there almost a sense of the inevitability that you have to...
Well, that's why I say this position of get the government out of the business of defining marriage entirely. That ought to satisfy both the social conservatives and the libertarians. Okay. I think that's a position to aim for.
Okay. Yeah. But that is not, in the past, it's not been the position of social conservatives. The position has been the government should not be...
One to which both social conservatives and libertarians are headed. Should be ahead of the game, not behind.
Is there a potential downside in terms of the party potentially losing a major constituency in social conservatives in adopting what is adopted?
It depends how you handle the issue. I think there'd be more support for the position of get the government out of the business of defining marriage. It leaps beyond the current controversy between social conservatives and libertarians.
Okay. Let's just talk about the environment, because you've and the Manning Institute, you've been very outspoken on the environment. There's not a lot that's come out of this convention on the environment. One resolution, but not any major change in direction or major substantive changes in policy. Do you think the party is doing enough to rethink, reformulate, and reposition when it comes to environmental activism?
Well, I think there has to be a lot of discussion on that. I think there's more action on the provincial level than there is at the federal level. But I think if you strip it away from just whether you support carbon taxing to the broader concept, do you support the idea that for every development of energy you ought to identify the negative environmental consequences? Do you agree that you should figure out measures to avoid or mitigate those consequences? And do you agree that the cost of those avoidance or mitigative measures should be incorporated in the price of the product? If you put it at that level, that can apply to garbage, can apply to hydro, it can apply to hydrocarbons. I think if you come at it at that level, there's an increasing number of people that agree with those three propositions, particularly the younger crowd. It's just a matter of time.
So you would agree, for example, with the Ontario Conservatives and obviously the BC Liberal government many years ago when they say the party has to get its mind around carbon pricing, and there should be a price on carbon.
Yeah, and they can take a position. You can support carbon pricing, but then there's certain conditions that have to attach to it. For example, I've said it should be revenue neutral. Yeah. It should replace regulation. And it should be applied to all sources of energy. Those are three things that neither the Ontario government nor the Alberta government, who profess to be interested in carbon pricing, are doing. So there's lots of room to present positive, constructive alternatives.
But is it a bit of a kick in the pants for the federal party here to get them to accept the principle when, for many years, under different leaders, they actually condemned anything resembling a carbon pricing as a carbon tax?
There'll have to be changes in that direction, but I think it's coming, and it's coming more for the younger members. It's coming at the provincial level first.
Okay, Mr. Manning, always a pleasure. Thanks very much.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
All right, Preston Manning in conversation with Martin Stringer.